We're going to begin our series on dealing with questions today. So, what we're talking about is, can Christians believe in the theory of evolution? And it's an important question because it's something we deal with. It's something many of us learn in school or perhaps college, or perhaps we hear about it online, and we're told that this is a contrary view to Christianity and we have to choose one or the other. And we end up sitting into a situation where we're told we have to choose between faith and science. And unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case. So I want to set some ground rules, perhaps, because whenever you're dealing with a question, it's always important that you're establishing what things mean. So it's important we understand that there's what are called open-handed things in the Christian faith and closed-handed. So, for example, it is open-handed the specifics of what the end times look like. Christians have debated this for a long time, but what's not open-handed, what's closed-handed, is that Jesus is coming back. That's the closed-handed thing. The open-handed thing is the specifics of what that looks like and the timing of it. So we have things we hold on to tightly. The core of the Christian faith. It's pretty well summarized in the Apostles' Creed, and we have open-handed things that we're willing to discuss and consider. And so it's also important we understand there's two different types of evolution when we describe it. There's what's called microevolution, and there's called macroevolution. Microevolution is small adjustments that an organism makes to adjust to its surroundings. As humans, we do this all the time. When it's cold outside during the winter, we put on a jacket. Sometimes birds, when they migrate to a colder climate, they'll grow more feathers to stay warmer. This has been a well observed phenomenon for a long time, and people don't really debate that aspect of it. But there's also called macroevolution. And as the name would suggest, it's evolution on a much larger scale, one species developing into another. And the type we hear about a lot online or perhaps in school is uh, humans evolving from apes. And this is the type that trips us up. But it's important that we understand there is a difference there between micro and macro evolution, because uh, what is actually, in fact, required for organism to respond to a different environment, interestingly, is a design, which requires an intelligence behind that design. But there's another thing we have to deal with, the idea of a mechanism versus an agent. Now, what do I mean by that? A mechanism is the um, system or processes by which something happens. An agent is the person who causes that to happen. So, for example, if I gave you an internal combustion engine and I told you to explain it, and you started talking about the rules of thermodynamics and how different pieces interact with each other, and I said, "No, you're wrong." I'm going to say Henry Ford, the man who created the Model T. Now, of course, others contributed to the internal combustion engine, but you would look at me and say, well, that doesn't make sense. They're not competing explanations for one another. In the same way, we can look at the Big Bang, for example, another thing that people have debated, and we can say, we can look at it and we can say everything we know bursting into an existence in a trillionth of a second might be what we would expect it to look like if a all-powerful God said, "Let there be light." And so we have the mechanism, the processes by which something happens, but we also have an agent, the one who causes it to happen. If I boil water because I would like tea, we can say, well, that the atoms, the molecules moving at a certain rate is causing it to boil. Or we could say, well, Bradley wants some tea. They're not competing explanations, they're complementary explanations. And so we have to apply this to evolution as well. If we want to say, and remember the question is, can a Christian believe in evolution? If we want to say yes, then we have to be able to say that evolution was the mechanism and God was the agent. And so if we don't want to do that, how do we navigate the seeming evidence that seems to be out there, such as shared DNA between us and many primates, and anatomical similarities, how we react to antibiotics, and how primates often react to antibiotics. If we want to say evolution did not happen at all, and yet God still did it, then we have to say, well, they look similar just because they do, and that's just because how God made it. If we want to embrace evolution in a category called theistic evolution, saying God used evolution as a mechanism by which to create, we end up saying the same thing. Interestingly, they look similar because God designed it that way. Because God designed creation to work in order together. The scriptures tell us God is not a God of chaos, but of order. And so uh, the natural world is orderly, just as the church is to be orderly. So I know that's a lot. So let me kind of wrap all this up. Whatever we say about evolution, whether we say God used it as the mechanism by which to create or not, it cannot start with anything other than what it says in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God. If it starts anywhere else, we have stepped into a category that a Christian cannot believe. If we go anywhere other than that, we're in fault. We have to say God did it. Now, this is not a minority view, theistic evolution. You notice I don't tell you where I sit on that, and I don't intend to. But it is worth noting that important Christians in time have answered this in different ways. People like Francis Collins, C.S. Lewis, Billy Graham, and Tim Keller all embrace theistic evolution. So this is not a fringe view that uh, uh, if you believe you're on the fringe. There are certainly Christians out there that would like to convince people that to embrace theistic evolution means you cannot be a Christian, but that's not the case. It's simply not. I've enjoyed discussing this, and if you have further questions or if you want to follow up on this, please feel free to comment on this video or shoot us an email at info@cfcmcgee.org. We'll begin answering some of your questions next week. We're giving some more time for questions to come in. We've got some, but I look forward to it, and I'll see you next week.